One thing that surprises a lot of people when they retire is the fact that they end up earning income in ways they never expected. So when it comes to Social Security, you got to be careful because what one hand giveth, the other may taketh away when it comes to your Social Security check. As if there wasn't enough to think about. Hey, welcome to week 3 of the series, Maximizing Your Social Security. Super exciting. If you're just joining us, you can go back a couple episodes and get the whole series. My name is Roger Whitney. This is the Retirement Answer Man Show. And we are dedicated to helping you not just survive retirement. I want you to rock retirement. I mean, why not, right? So this week, what we're going to talk about on the show is we're going to talk about the cost of living adjustment feature of Social Security, which is really underappreciated by a lot of people because it's pretty powerful from a planning perspective. And then in our practical planning segment, we're going to dive into what happens if you have certain levels of income and you're taking Social Security. I mean, we got to know, right? We got to factor that in. All on the Retirement Answer Man Show. But we can't do any of that until we have this all-important disclaimer. Hey, you, don't take advice from that Roger guy on the show. He doesn't know you. You don't know him. Yeah, I don't know you. Don't take advice from me on the show. I only work with clients as a fiduciary, so I know enough about them. Before you make a decision, talk to your legal advisor, your tax advisor, or your financial advisor. And we're going to talk about some tax issues here today. So realize I am not a CPA. I'm not a tax expert. I don't give tax advice. I do end up coordinating a lot with CPAs when I'm working with clients, so I know a little bit about it, but you want to be careful before you make any decisions. Make sense? Now let's go figure out what COLA is. So in the Hot Topic segment today, let's talk about a feature of Social Security that a lot of us don't think about that can actually be very powerful from a planning perspective, and that's the fact that Social Security is inflation adjusted. So I'm going to dive into how that happened and some of the numbers and how it's calculated so you can get an idea of how this benefit might work for you. So back in 1973, I believe, Congress passed a bill that allowed for Social Security to have a COLA adjustment. So COLA, I'm not talking about the soda. That's bad for you. Don't pick that up. COLA, cost of living adjustment. So starting in 1975, every year, the government would announce how much they were going to increase the benefit payment to all of those receiving Social Security by the cost of living adjustment, or by COLA. And the objective here is really just to help Social Security keep up with the standard of living. So the people that really need it, especially over time, that their lifestyle doesn't get eaten away by inflation, which is a noble thing. And so the way COLA is adjusted is based off of the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners. You don't need to know all that stuff. But let's look at the numbers. Since 1975 up until 2017, the average COLA adjustment has been about 3.9%. So what do I mean by COLA adjustment? The average amount that someone's Social Security check went up over that period of time was 3.9%. Hey, that's not bad. You know, that's roughly the inflation number I use in planning, so it makes sense that the COLA adjustment would coincide with that. But sort of like investment returns, you know how we've talked about investment returns where the average is not necessarily the most important part. More important when you're in retirement is what season are you going into from a return sequence standpoint, right? You can have the average, but if you happen to retire during a really bad season for investments, it could really put your security in jeopardy. So although the average over that period of time has been about 4%, if we look at the last 20 years of COLA adjustments for Social Security, so that's what, 1998 to 2017, the average adjustment during those 20 years has only been 2.1%, about half of what we've seen over the lifespan of COLA adjustments. And then if we zoom down even farther and look at the last 10 years, 2008 to 2017. Those receiving Social Security have only seen an average increase in their benefits each year of about 1.7%, less than half the average. In fact, over the last 10 years, let's see, I'm looking at the sequence of COLA adjustments. If you were retired in 2009, it didn't have any adjustment at all. It was zero. In 2010, the COLA adjustment was zero. In 2015, the COLA adjustment was zero. In 16, we had like a 0.3% increase in Social Security payments based off of COLA. And they already announced for 2017, it was 2% increase. So, that's a little bit better. So even though we have this average of what it's increased, it definitely never gets close to the average. And those that have been retired for now in the last 20 years have definitely seen something a lot less. Now, this COLA adjustment started in 1975. So we look at, you remember 75? I was too young. I was a kid. I didn't pay attention to any of this stuff. But, we had inflation. And even into the 80s, from 1975 to 1984, the COLA adjustment for Social Security was 7.7% a year. So every year you got a raise in your Social Security benefit of almost 8%. Woo! Well, of course you had crazy inflation. So it was just trying to keep up with inflation. So we sort of, over the period of time, we've gone through a season of huge inflation and muted inflation in the recent past. So how much can we count on this Social Security adjustment? Well, let's talk a little bit about how it's actually calculated. So the COLA adjustment is based off of CPI, the Consumer Price Index. And then what's interesting, though, is the government, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, reports a lot of this stuff. And I think this happened in the late 90s, but I might be wrong about that. So how is CPI calculated? Basically, what they do is they look at a basket of goods that someone needs to just live a life. So we're talking about food and beverage, breakfast cereal, milk, chicken, wine, housing, rent of a primary residence, clothes, transportation, medical care, recreation. So what they do is they create a basket of goods that represent a lot of these things, and they track over time the change in prices. As you can imagine, this is pretty sophisticated analysis. That's why we have this Bureau of Labor Statistics. Well, so that's operated where they basically just track the price of goods increasing of that basket year by year. But an interesting thing happened in, I believe it was the 90s, and this is the part I'm not sure about, is the government instituted something called substitution to, quote unquote, better represent the true price increases that someone might see. Their position was, hey, we've been overestimating the inflation rate because that's not how people spend. So if we introduce this idea of substitution, a simple way to say it is they took into account, hey, if the price of steak is going up significantly, we have to account for the fact that people will just make different choices and buy beef or buy whatever. So basically they're saying, yeah, if things go up, we can't just keep pricing the same goods. We have to account for the fact that an individual consumer will just substitute it with a less expensive good. And so when this change happened, how CPI, Consumer Price Index, was reported ended up being consistently a lot lower than the old methodology. Essentially, a lot of critics say, is that it allowed the government to perpetually manipulate CPI, or the Consumer Price Index. And this directly affects Social Security. In fact, it affects a lot of different things because there is a lot of government benefits that are based off of CPI. So if you had a negative view, you say, well, the government did this on purpose because this is one way that they were able to control expenses. So we don't know how this might manifest itself if we come into a rising inflation season. Now, my estimation is, hey, this is awesome. Any extra they're willing to give us, really from our own money, right? Any extra they're willing to give us for an adjustment upward, we should just be happy for. That sounds horrible to say, but from a practical planning perspective, I do think, though, that it is always going to trail your personal true inflation rate. So we need to be aware of that. So that's the ins and outs of inflation and the CPI adjustment. In one way, they sort of taketh away what they gave you. Now in our practical planning segment, we're going to talk about what happens if you have income. So a couple things the government has done to help shore up Social Security, and this has been done over a long period of time. Remember how we talked about they have so many tweaks that they can do to really make this a sustainable program? I think it was back in the first episode of this series. Well, a couple of things that they did was they adjusted. They say, hey, if you take Social Security before your full retirement age, so starting at 62, and you earn certain levels of income, we're going to delay giving you a certain portion of it. So it reduces your benefits during early retirement, but then you ultimately end up recouping it back, but over a much longer period of time, because that helped them from an accounting standpoint. And then the second thing they did that we're going to have to explore today is, well, even after full retirement, if you're earning a certain amount of income, that Social Security becomes taxable. Another scheme that helped shore up the entire system. And we'll probably see things like this again in the future. But let's talk about what is. So first, what I want to do is talk about if you're going to take Social Security prior to your full retirement age, what's going to happen is the government is going to penalize you or reduce your benefits that you're receiving if you earn over a certain amount. So that amount is $17,040 for this year. So if you earn over $17,040 and you have that as reportable income, what the Social Security Administration is going to do is reduce your benefits, the check you're getting. Remember, this is the check that's already reduced because you started early. They're going to reduce it by $1 for every $2 over that amount. So it's probably better to go through an example in this. So let's use an example. Let's say, I don't know, Joe, who was born in 1955, started receiving his Social Security prior to full retirement. All right. And let's say that he's getting $2,000 a month in his Social Security benefit. These are totally fictitious numbers. So he also is earning, through some part-time work or consulting, $32,000 a year. So that's well over that $17,040 we talked about. So what's his benefit going to be? What's going to happen to his benefit? Well, the excess earnings is just under $15,000. It's $14,960 above that $17,040 limit. So he's got about $15,000 in excess earnings. You divide that by 2, he's going to see a benefit reduction in his Social Security payments of $7,480. That's pretty significant. That's about a third, right? That's what he's going to see his early Social Security benefit go down as a result of earning that $32,000 a year. And the government will end up doing calculations like this every single year until you reach full retirement age. So, on the surface, say, wow, they're going to reduce my benefits, so I lost that. Well, in actuality, you don't actually lose at least most of it. You may lose some of it. But what the Social Security Administration does is when you reach full retirement age, they're going to recalculate upward the amount of your benefit, taking into account the amount you lost because of the earned income rule. So, but they're not going to give it to you all at once. It's going to be paid out to you a little bit each year. Approximately over 15 years is when you'll actually recoup all that amount that you get. I know, it's crazy complicated. I guess the point is, when you are expecting to have some earned income and you're choosing to take your Social Security benefit prior to your full retirement age, you got to be careful. Doesn't mean you won't get it back, but you're definitely not going to see the impact of it. As one, if you take your full retirement benefit early, well, now you got to reduce benefit by up to 30%. So you got to reduce benefit. And if you're earning income over the threshold, you can see that money taken out of your reduced benefit and then only recalculated at full retirement age to be paid out to you in bits and drabs on your reduced benefit. So it can not really be a very advantageous position to be into. So you got to be really careful on your income if you take your benefits early. Whereas alternatively, if you pursued some type of pre-retirement or some kind of work to earn income and delay your Social Security, well, you get the best of both worlds. One, you get a higher Social Security benefit. And two, you're free to earn as much as you want to allow that benefit not to be reduced. So there's a lot of planning in this. And that's one reason why I like the idea of pre-retirement or some type of work as an alternative to taking your retirement early. I guess the situation would be unless you know you're never going to work or you can't work and you just need the benefit. So be aware of that if you're planning on taking Social Security prior to full retirement age. Now, the next question is, okay, what happens after full retirement age? What's going to happen to my benefits there? I'm at full retirement age. They can't mess with me anymore, right? Well, they're not going to take away your benefit, but they are going to potentially make part of it taxable based again on what you earn. So what the government did here was they said, okay, if you're at full retirement age and you're receiving Social Security benefit, doesn't matter whether it was a reduced one or your full benefit, if you earn over certain thresholds, that Social Security benefit is going to become taxable. So let's go through some numbers here. So if you're an individual, anything between $25,000 and $34,000 a year in earnings, you may have to pay income tax up to 50% of your benefits. So if you're getting that $2,000 a month that we talked about in the example prior, and you earn somewhere within that $25,000 to $34,000 range, you could have half of that or $12,000 in taxable income from your Social Security that you're going to have to pay taxes on. If you're married, let's go back to the single again. If you earn more than $34,000, then it starts to ratchet up even higher, up to having to pay taxes on 85% of your benefits. So again, if you're getting $2,000 a month or $24,000 a year, and you earn over $34,000, it could ratchet up to where you're paying taxes on roughly $20,000, just over $20,000 of your Social Security benefit. Now, if you're filing joint, it goes from $32,000 to $44,000 to the 50% being taxable. And then anything over $44,000 a year, it could ratchet up to 85% of your benefits. You don't have to remember all this. We'll have some links in Six Shot Saturday. And to be honest with you, the Social Security website is pretty valuable. It gives you a lot of this information. They have great pamphlets. They got a lot of great calculators to help you easily figure a lot of this out. I'm very impressed with the website. So from a planning perspective, similar to the prior to full retirement age, there's some consideration there. Let me back up a second. So what is considered wages according to the Social Security? So you have a question of, hey, I don't have any earned income, but I get $80,000 a year in unqualified dividends. Does that count? And it doesn't. So Social Security earnings test considers only wages from a job or your net self-employed income. Investment income doesn't count as part of that. So you can feel better a little bit about that. But so when you're planning on taking Social Security, whether it's before full retirement or afterwards, how much you anticipate earning can have a big impact on the net benefit that you're going to receive. And it may actually influence whether you decide to do a pre-retirement, and it may actually tip the scales a little bit that way. But like everything, it ends up being a negotiation in terms of what you want to be able to do in your life. This is one reason why you don't want to just make the decision, I'm taking it as soon as I can, because I don't know if it's going to be there. I don't think we have an issue there, especially for baby boomers. But if you take that kind of position and you just take it and you're working where you may not have anticipated working or you knew you were going to work, now you're going to get double penalized because of the withholding of the benefit or the taxable nature of the Social Security benefit. So it goes back to it all depends because each situation is different. But it's just important to know these rules so you can work on doing the calculation for yourself. Now, what we're going to do next week is we're going to dive into some of the common Social Security planning strategies. And this is mainly going to be for married couples to see what potential there is for you to maximize your benefit as a couple. So that's what we're going to do next week. But right now, we're going to go get happy. Be happy. Welcome to the Happy Lab, where we noodle on how to live a happy life. I tell you, after all of that crazy, dry Social Security stuff,
you're so weird.
I get weird when I have to deal with crazy, dry Social Security stuff. That's what happens. I have a question for you. What is it you do that is kooky? You know what? I have a theory. we're pretty kooky when we're kids, right? We're kooky when we're kids. I mean, just if you have a grandkid or a young child, go spend a half hour with them. They're a little insane. And then when we're in college, we're just a slightly mature version of being kooky and insane. And then, well, you weren't, Nicole, because you're pure as the driven snow or whatever the phrase is.
Let me readjust my halo over here.
Exactly. But normal people. And then we get older and we have kids, we have work, we have responsibility, and we lose some of that kookiness. I love being kooky. I love people looking at me with a weird eye like Nicole does all the time. So my question to you, or my counsel to you on living a happier life, is get a little kooky. Come on. Give me some kooky, Nicole. Come on. Let me hear Nicole kooky.
What? I can't be kooky on cue. That's too much pressure.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Go be kooky and be a little spontaneous. Let's go I guess we should go set a smart sprint. Let's go set a smart sprint.
On your marks, get set.
And we're off to set a 7-day goal. Take a little baby step to create a happy life. I'm getting back to serious Roger now. That's why I'm using this voice.
You sound very serious.
Thank you. I am. So in the next 7 days, evaluate what type of income you think you might be earning from 62 on. We're talking about how one hand giveth. They give us Social Security benefits that we've paid for. And then depending on the income you earn can really impact what you're going to get in Social Security. So I think it's important for us to really get some clarity on, are we going to earn income? And if we realize, yeah, we sort of want to, then start noodling on what that might be. That way we can incorporate that into the Social Security discussion. So your action item for the next 7 days is start thinking about, especially if you're close, am I going to be earning some income that I'm sort of discounting? And how much might I earn? Because that may affect how I do Social Security. That's an easy one. Just start noodling on that. Questions. Who's got a question? Remember, next month is the meatloaf of the Retirement Answer Man show. The casserole. It's Sunday. I got to throw all the...
Casserole sounds good. I like that.
I got to throw all the leftovers into a big pot and mix it up and put some spice in it month, meaning we're going to have a smorgasbord of questions. So we need questions from you. So go to rogerwhitney.com. We'd love to get your audio, but if you email us, we'll have Nicole read them and we'll hopefully answer it in August. So give us a question. But until then, have a great day.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of Retirement Answer Man. Be sure to visit rogerwhitney.com/answers to access the Retirement Answer Library with over 30 checklists to help you make the most of the only life you have. Remember, you have more power than you realize to create an amazing life starting today with Retirement Answer Man. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Have a wonderful day.